Hey, I'm Rob Gantt with the Goose Creek Gazette and the Berkeley Independent. I'm here at the Summerville Journal-Scene office today with my teammate Roger Lee of the Summerville Journal-Scene. We are talking football. This is week 4 of the high school football season coming up. And first things first, man, it's this Wednesday morning. It felt absolutely great this morning. Does this mean football season's here?
It certainly feels like it. So hopefully.
Well, I hope Friday feels like it did this morning. It's going to feel epic. Well, speaking of epic, let's be real. We got some great games on the slate this week, starting out with a huge game in your area. Let's talk about it.
That's right. We've got Fort Dorchester's hosting Berkeley. They're two of the top teams in the area right now. I believe they're both undefeated. Am I correct in that?
That is correct.
Okay. Yep. Fort is 3-0. Coming off a 51-10 over Wando. Last week I talked about how I thought Wando might give them a tight game. Well, I was wrong.
Yeah, definitely. They're awesome. They're good this year.
Yeah, in that game, DeAndre Sabb had 135 passing yards, 2 TDs, and also a rushing touchdown. Quay Simmons, a receiver, had over 100 receiving yards and over 100 yards in returns. So that's like his best game of the season. They're really expecting him to kind of shine as the season develops. And backup quarterback Zoltan Osborne threw for 71 yards and a touchdown. And they're using him every game. Coach LaPrade said they were going to do that. They don't usually ask him to run much. They just, he's in there to be a quarterback, and they have confidence in him. So, it's looking like, you can't just prepare for DeAndre Sabb. You have to prepare for the backup as well. Berkeley has one of their stronger teams. People were worried about all the guys they lost from last year's team, which did really well. But they've just got some studs, man, some receivers, and their quarterback does a good job. What do you know about Berkeley, Rob?
Well, what I'm excited mostly about that game is, we're gonna get some truth on Friday night, and at Fort Dorchester High School, we're gonna know the truth. The public kind of the narrative was that Fort Dorchester was improved from last year, and that Berkeley had come down a little bit. So I don't know. Is that true? We'll find out Friday night. As far as Berkeley is concerned, there won't be any team Friday that runs out onto the field with any more just excitement than the Stags. It's been a while since they played. And as far as the on-field team this year, I think the Trey Minor has done an exceptional job filling in at quarterback. He's had 7 touchdown passes in the 2 games they played, over 600 yards. Good news for the Stags, Willie Chisholm, DJ Chisholm's little brother, has returned from an injury. He was the original starting quarterback. He's had a brace on. He may play Friday too. So the Stags have 2 quarterbacks. I really look for if Berkeley's going to win the football game, they're going to have to, 1, not help Fort Dorchester, and 2, Hunter Powers and those boys up front, the linemen for the Stags, they got to give Minor or Chisholm a chance to stand in there and make some plays. And the receivers, Solomon Butler, Hakeem Meggett, Eric Green's another guy, and Daron Brown. They got to take care of the football when they get it. Cortez Hayward's the running back. One thing, the common thread in all Fort Dorchester games this year is they have disrupted teams, and they've been opportunistic with turnovers. So, big key for Berkeley. All those skill guys I just mentioned, secure the ball, and we'll see what happens on Friday night. Should be a good one. I think Berkeley's a little better than people think.
I think so. An interesting fact. Berkeley has outscored its opponents 96-12 this season. Mm-hmm. Sounds pretty good, but then when you look at Fort Dorchester, they've outscored their opponents 131-16. So I think you hit it hit the nail on the head there. Turnovers and whoever plays the best defense. As good as that Fort defense is, sometimes you might have an injury. Sometimes guys just might not have their best game. So if Berkeley, plays their best defensive game of the season, gets a couple of turnovers, who knows?
Well, last year it was a 1-point game. Fort Dorchester won. Berkeley had some problems on special teams. So I'm gonna say we're gonna get a knockdown drag out on Friday night. I'm excited to see how it turns out. I don't know that I can pick a winner, but I'm excited to see how it goes.
I'm going to be at that game, and I'm excited to watch it. It should be a thriller.
Should be. All right, what's next?
All right, I've also got Summerville playing Cane Bay, hosting Cane Bay. Last week, Summerville faced a Stratford team that likes to pass, had a lot of success passing against Summerville. This week they got the opposite. They've got a team that they know is going to run at them. And Coach Call, I talked to him after that game, and he said assignment football, that they've got to be disciplined, and that's going to be what the Green Wave needs to do to kind of contain the Cobras. But in that game against Stratford, Stratford had a chance to win it with a 2-point conversion play in the last minute of regulation, and defensive back Jaden James broke up a pass in the end zone to preserve that win. They went with a onside kick after that, and Summerville scored. Returned the onside kick for a touchdown to make the score a little misleading there. But that was a super tight game. Everybody was talking about during the game and after about how it felt like a Stratford-Summerville game from the days of old. When that rivalry was one of the stronger ones. Before some of these other schools started opening up and taking some attention away from them. But Summerville's looking good. KJ Rollins rushed for 111 yards, 3 touchdowns in that game. Kamari Nix, a senior receiver, had a 85-yard touchdown pass, and that's the thing is Stratford wasn't giving up anything through the air until the fourth quarter, and then he hit Nix. Colby Shirey hit Nix on that 85-yard touchdown play, and that opened it up and just gave Summerville the momentum. And so that's the key. Who gets momentum in this game with the Cobras?
I will touch on 2 things. One, I'll say good effort by Stratford to come out and play. The quarterback, Josh Davis, had 4 touchdown passes, well over 300 yards passing. Good effort. I think it signals to me that Stratford has a chance to make some noise in Region 7. And now moving on to Cane Bay, since Summerville's playing Cane Bay. It was a huge confidence-building win for Cane Bay on Friday over Ashley Ridge. It was 14-9. Leon Staley scored a touchdown in the closing minutes to make it 14-3 for Cane Bay. He had over 100 yards, by the way. Ashley Ridge goes down, makes it 14-9, goes for 2, just like the Summerville-Stratford game. Ashley Ridge did not get it, but they did get the onside kick and drove down into the red zone against the Cobras. Had 3 chances at the end zone. None of them could stick. Time runs out. Andre Green for Cane Bay had the big play at the end to knock it down, and then that ended the game. Cane Bay won the game 14-9, and that was a huge shot in the arm for them because the game prior, they had a piece of Fort Dorchester, and it was 42-0 at half, and then 49-0 overall at the end of the game. So, Cane Bay probably wasn't feeling great about itself at that time, but they got one under the belt. It was a typical Cane Bay Ashley Ridge game. Came down to the wire. They've played 14 times. That series is now 7-7, and I think I'm gonna say 9 or 10 of those matchups have been by 8 points or less. So Cane Bay has some confidence going into the game. The key against Summerville, obviously, is you're playing a good program. Don't help them. Don't turn the ball over.
Do you see, Coach Zare, is he going to see that success Stratford had through there and maybe change things up a little bit, or are they going to stick with that option?
No, there's 0% chance they get past happy over there.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying they may not, try to rope a dope Summerville and throw one over the top, but no, there's no way they're going to throw it regularly unless they just were to get behind. That would be interesting, though. The Cobras came out and threw it like 25 times. Just that would be interesting for sure.
Right.
Be like old Georgia Tech doing it.
Right. Gotcha. Also, next week we got the team you just talked about. Ashley Ridge is at James Island. Ashley Ridge is looking for their 2nd win of the season. So we'll see how they fare on the road. They're looking okay. They're not getting dominated or anything like that. They took a big blow when they played Berkeley. That didn't go their way. But the other games they've had have been tight ball games, and they did win one.
Yeah.
Last week Matt Duncan completed 22 passes for 211 yards. Troy Grant had over 100 yards rushing, and Gabe Salmons is a receiver for Ashley Ridge, who had nearly 100 yards receiving. They kind of have a knack for causing turnovers traditionally, and I don't think that's changed this year. So, I think the Swamp Foxes have plenty of motivation. They've got players. They just need to, get those offensive and defensive linemen where they need to be. And if they can do that, they'll be back in the mix for, when region play gets here. But they need to do something fast.
Yeah, well, in my opinion, they'll get healthy against James Island. Ashley Ridge will win that game.
Think so?
For sure.
We also have Pinewood is playing Heathwood Hall. Pinewood's still looking for their first win of the season, but Heathwood Hall is nothing like the opponent that they had last week. One of the better teams in Skeeza whipped up on the Panthers pretty bad last week. But maybe this is the week that Pinewood turns it around. Looking at them, in the preseason, they look like they have some players. To me, they look like they could do better than they did last year, which was a really bad year for them. I think they only had one win last year.
Right.
So we're looking to see if Pinewood turns it around this week.
Well, certainly Heathwood will not be a Hammond. That is for sure. So their chances to win got better because Hammond is all world Skeeza.
Yeah, right. Cool. What you got going on in Berkeley County?
Well, yeah, Berkeley County, Goose Creek takes on Stall for homecoming. The Gators are coming off a 28-10 win over West Ashley. I was there, I saw it, and it was a dominant defensive effort. I'm going to do my best to remember all these names here. Quinn Tolbert, he's a linebacker. He blocked 2 punts. Alex Dials, a defensive back. He made an interception, also hustled down to make a fumble recovery on a kickoff. Jalen Daniel made an interception. And one more guy, Jekiah Wigfall, made an interception for the Gators. So they needed a performance like that to kind of start to feel good about themselves after losing their opener to Ashley Ridge. And offensively, they were not as efficient as they need to be, consistent, I should say. But they did do enough to score 28 points. The quarterback, Manny Mukwamu, he ran for 3 touchdowns. And he had a touchdown pass to Damon Muzan. So they weren't as efficient as they needed to be, had a little bit too many penalties, but they still won 28-10. Probably could have been worse if they'd been a little more efficient on offense. Stratford is actually off this week. They will play West Ashley next week. I believe that game will be at Stratford. I'm excited to see kind of what they do moving forward after how close they were with Summerville. And it might be a good time for them to kind of be off. You lose a game like that to a rival. Some people say you want to keep playing. Some people appreciate the break. I think Stratford might appreciate the break. They get a chance to focus, get back to the basics, kind of focus on themselves and get some stuff cleaned up. Hanahan is at home versus Philip Simmons. The special thing here is it's the first home game of the year for Hanahan. They had to play their first one over at Goose Creek High School. That was against Myrtle Beach, number 1 Myrtle Beach, and so it did not go well. Philip Simmons presents an opportunity for Hanahan to win. They're kind of more on the same level. Hanahan's coming off a 47-14 loss at Bluffton, so they've lost 52-7 to Myrtle Beach, and they lost 47-14 to Bluffton. I thought that Bluffton game could be a little closer, but this one right here, this is a good opportunity for the Hawks to win. Philip Simmons is a new program, just getting it figured out. I think Philip Simmons is coming off I'm going to say they lost 28-7 to Bishop England. Northwood Academy hits the road to Colleton Prep. Northwood is coming off a bye. These two teams met last year. I believe the final score was something like 14-6. Northwood was winless, and they had an opportunity to win a game last year. It didn't work out for them. I think this is a similar type of game that we're going to have this year. Should be nip and tuck back and forth. Northwood does have a win under its belt this year, so they're more improved. They're improved, and I think Northwood Colleton Prep will be a very close game on Friday. The game I'll be at on Friday, the Timberland Wolves are hosting Bishop England, and the Wolves are a very angry bunch right now. They went up to Providence Day on Friday. And Timberland just ran into a little bit better team, got beat 27-6. But this Friday, they have a team that they've historically dominated. Bishop England's going to roll over there to St. Stephen. Timberland has won 14 of the 15 matchups. I expect an angry bunch of Wolves to roll in that one. I'll be at that one. Follow me on Twitter. A couple more games. St. John's Christian. It's coming off a 58-30 win at Lawrence Academy on Friday. I don't have any stats, but I'm assuming it was a big game for Bookert and Ellison. and there's your story. They got to go to Andrew Jackson, which won three 8-man state championships in a row before losing in the championship game to Buford Academy last year. They're one of the state's best programs. I don't know. I know at one point they had won something like, I want to say like 40 or 50 in a row before Buford Academy took them out last year. One more team to mention, and what about these guys? The Cross Trojans did not win a game last year, but this year they now have 2 victories to their credit. They beat Kingstree 16-13 on Friday, and they scored with about a minute and a half left. DeAndre Brown hit Zyrell Edie for a 65-yard touchdown pass to make it 16-13, and then the defense, 14-13, they got a 2-point conversion, 16-13. Then they held on defense, and they got their second win of the year. 2 other names to mention: Tyleek Green, he scored the first touchdown for Cross. That was in the first half. It was a short touchdown run. And Damian Haynes, I believe this guy is a freshman, but he led them in tackles. I think he had about 9. I think he's a freshman. If he is, man, watch out for this guy in the next few years. If he's not, my bad. And that pretty much does it for Berkeley County high schools. A couple more things to mention: college football. How about those Bulldogs?
Yeah.
We left them out last week. Didn't even mention that they were playing. They rolled into Georgia Tech, and beat Georgia Tech with its old offense. Beat them in overtime. Citadel actually hosts Charleston Southern on Saturday at 6 p.m. at Johnson Haygood Stadium. Clemson is going to host Charlotte on the ACC network. That'll be at 7:30 p.m. Charlotte is a team. It's probably a little better than people think. I think you hear it and you think, well, Clemson's obviously going to destroy them, and they very well may. But I think Charlotte's a little bit better than people think. They do have some weapons. And South Carolina, they go to Missouri, right?
I think so.
They go to Missouri. I saw the opening line. I was really surprised that they were a 9.5 point under. That South Carolina was a 9.5 point underdog at Missouri. So anyway, I'm assuming you kind of kept up with the. Do you have any opinion on what happened with Citadel and Charleston? Citadel and Georgia Tech, or Clemson and Carolina, Alabama? Anything?
Well, I think the Bulldogs have shown that they're a team. I think it has something to do with them being a military school. You can't rule them out. They don't, have a whole lot of success against bigger schools, bigger programs, D1 schools. But they have upset some teams, and they watched some of that game against Tech, and Tech had a chance to kind of, they had the momentum, they had a chance to put it away, and they didn't do it, and the Bulldogs just made them pay for it. So
I will point out, last time Citadel beat an FBS team, it was South Carolina in 2015. And the following week, Charleston Southern played them and beat them. So maybe that's a good omen for the Buccaneers. Clemson and Syracuse. You were telling me what a great game it was up for a half, and then Clemson kind of got its feet under it and ran away from them.
Yeah, Tigers were too strong for Syracuse. That's probably one of the tougher games Clemson's going to have for a couple of weeks. I don't know. I haven't looked at their schedule, but that's got to be a good feeling for the Tiger fans, right?
Yeah, you got to realize it's a 4-quarter game, and no matter what the score was at halftime, it's a 4-quarter game, and by the time it was over, Clemson had 4th and 5th string guys in there. So yeah, you certainly got to feel good. I know it wasn't as efficient early as you want it to be, but Clemson did go up 14-0. Carolina, Alabama, that score was 47-23. By the way,
as called by Rob Gantt.
I did say it would be. Yes, I did say that. So, did you have any opinion of Helinski and how he played at quarterback for the Gamecocks?
I think he played good. I thought if they just would have, they went for the fake field goal and got it in the end zone, but then it got called back on a holding penalty.
Yeah.
I think that would have changed the momentum of that game. I think it would have been, I don't know that they would have beat Alabama, but that was their chance right there. If they just could have avoided that penalty, they would have went up. And I think they could have maybe with a turnover or something, they could have went deep into the fourth quarter. But then once, right after that, Alabama returned the kick. I forget if he scored on the return or just ran it deep into Gamecock territory. But, then you were like, oh, well, here we go again. And that's exactly what it was.
That's right. Two more things. Kansas is a 9.5 point underdog going to Missouri. You think that's Carolina should be a 9.5 point underdog to Missouri?
I don't, but that's good for the Gamecocks. You always want to have to prove yourself, and coming off a big loss, I don't think that them being a 9.5 point underdog hurts them at all. I think if anything, it helps them because they're like, oh, that's all. We got beat by Alabama. There's only two, the top two teams right now in the country are Clemson and Alabama, and you're going to diss us like that just because we got whipped by one of the top teams. So.
One last thing, the Catholics are coming to Athens this weekend. How you got that one going?
Well, I got nothing against Catholics. I just want to go on record saying, but I do have a lot of love for the Georgia Bulldogs, and that's a tough game for Notre Dame in Athens. Between the hedges, I like Georgia in that game. Now, Notre Dame's one of those teams. They're going to play well probably. They tend to play well in the big games. But I like the way Georgia's looking this year. Even though they haven't really faced tough competition, they've manhandled everybody they faced so far.
Go Irish. And I'm still waiting for somebody to identify this hat. Does anybody know who this is? Somebody come up to me at a game. Actually, I have had people come up to me and say, hey, they watch Football Talk and they really enjoy it, so I guess we're doing something right. But somebody come up and tell me who this is on my hat.
Faith Christian?
Nope. It's outside the area.
Okay.
If you know where I'm from, you should have an idea who this is. All right. Hey, that's been Football Talk for this week. Look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Yeah.
Have a good Friday.